spectacular episode of We Only Look Thin.
Woo!
With your hosts, Catherine Weigel and Donald Weigel.
Hello!
Hello! 200 episodes!
200 episodes. People ask us how we've done it, why we've done it, and we say spite.
Spite.
We've done it for spite, because when we first started this, everyone said, you'll never get to episode 200.
And some family members said, how's your blog?
Yeah, it's
some
true.
family members still ask
They
how our
still
blog
ask
is.
how our blog is
And you know
going.
what? It's fine.
This
Our
is
blog
very
is
similar
fine.
to our marriage, because when we first got together, they were like, you'll never stay
Yeah, it's
together.
spite.
And so we were like, we're going to get married and prove them wrong. And then we got married. Everybody was like, your marriage will never last. And so we stayed together for spite.
Yeah, and they still think our marriage is a blog.
Yeah.
I don't know. The blog's not
How's
even
your
a thing.
blog marriage?
Well, before my grandmother just turned 97, by the way.
Yeah,
Let's start
just
with
turned
that.
97.
But before we were married, she has the habit, or she has the discretion of saying, before you're actually married, she says, "How's your friend?
How's your friend?
How's your friend?
Yeah.
How's your friend?
How's your
How's
friend?
your friend doing? Oh, how's your friend? So my friend, how are you doing?"
That was a really good that was super professional, that
My friend-
transition.
My friend, how are you doing? How
I'm
you doing,
I'm
Donald?
doing pretty good. 200 episodes.
That's bananas.
I know. Like, I mean, in all seriousness, with the, spite aside, I didn't know if we'd still be doing this 200 episodes later when we started.
Yeah, when we started, I think the idea was we had some things to say.
Yeah.
We had some things to say, but honestly, it was part of our scheme to be accountable for maintaining our weight loss.
I mean, frankly, I wasn't sure I would still have kept the weight off 200 episodes later at that point. Like, I thought I could. I was pretty sure I could, but I wasn't sure. This is like the longest I've ever kept weight off.
I know it's actually. I mean, this is going to be kind of an organic episode.
Yeah.
We're switching it up a little bit, but yeah, it's funny. The first year of podcasting, I was like, oh yeah, and that year we did, Canaries in a Coal Mine, and we did, Thunderstruck, and all these things.
Calvin Coolidge was president of the United States. Let's take you back.
Let's take you back. Yeah, but like
The Honeymooners was the most popular show on TV.
But, in the first year, it seemed like we had, like 10 things to say. And now we're on episode 200. I don't remember what we've said.
Yeah.
I don't know who we said it to.
No.
I don't know if we made funny jokes before.
That's
or if
because
it was just...
we're old. We've forgotten everything.
No, but, 200 episodes a lot. I forget what we say, so I bet you also forget what we say. So we're just going to go back to episode 1 and just repeat it all
We're going
again.
to recap each episode right now over for the next 200 hours.
Well, we were sort of trying to think of what to do for the 200th episode. On episode 100, which I actually do remember, which is actually a long time ago.
Yeah.
We thought of, or we didn't think about, we decided to do a list of our non-scale victories, NSVs, of the ways our lives have changed, despite the number on the scale, how we've actually changed and grown as people. So on this 200th episode, we actually had an organic human conversation about what are we going to talk about that actually matters? Or
Yeah.
like Donald said, are we going to recap every of the 200 episodes?
Yeah, and then Catherine suggested that we list our 200 favorite spices.
Yeah, like 200 favorite walks we've taken.
Paprika, cinnamon.
We're just going to name spices.
Yeah.
Because they're the spice of life, as we have talked about.
Spices are the spice of life.
But really, we weren't sure what we were going to do for the 200th episode. So then we decided, we're going to tell you how it all broke down. We're going to take you behind the veil.
Yeah.
We're like, well, should we just do an interview format where we just ask each other random secret questions that we don't know the answer to?
Yeah.
That was very stressful.
Like, who actually ate the last cookie?
Yeah, it was me,
Oh.
probably. No, but it's almost like we didn't really write running vows, did we? We just sort of said what the
Yeah.
I almost said what the doctor told us
What
to
the
say.
doctor told us to say at our
Oh
wedding.
my gosh! I didn't tell you yesterday. I was driving home,
Yeah.
and there was a carpool lane, and I saw that there was a Bentley behind me.
Yeah.
It was like a crazy big Bentley.
Yeah.
And it said Dr. J3 on it.
Oh.
And so I thought maybe it was Magic Johnson. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, is Magic Johnson behind me? And the traffic was kind of crazy. And I was like, am I going to like get in an accident because I think I see Dr. J? Like I got very Hollywood there for a second, but you have something to say about Dr. J.
Here's where I'm going to be a super jerk. Magic Johnson's nickname is Magic. Dr. J is a totally different basketball player named Julius Erving.
Isn't Dr. J Magic Johnson?
No.
Oh my God.
So if you had turned around and Magic Johnson had Dr. J on his license plate, it would have been even more shocking.
I'm the worst person. Julius
Erving, who played with the Philadelphia 76ers when I was a kid / in high school.
Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. Let's just unrecord this. That's terrible. I'm the worst person.
No, it's a great story. There's no way I'm cutting that out. There's no way I'm cutting it out.
I'm really glad I wasn't.
You don't know how to cut it out, so it's not happening.
Oh my gosh, I'm actually like crying right now. So when the doctor told us to say our vows.
Yeah. That's what we were talking about. That's how we got onto doctors.
Anyway, I don't know who was driving the car.
Yeah.
I have no proof, but we didn't actually do vows. But I know when people do vows, sometimes they're like, what if I say something stupid and my partner says something awesome? Like, what if the questions are stressful? Like, how are we going to do this? So going back to the beginning, let's just pretend I don't know anything about basketball, which I don't. That we decided instead of asking just surprise questions that we would plan 3 questions to ask one another.
Yeah.
And then 1 surprise question because that was less stressful. I was still very stressed out. I'm very stressed out to not know what Donald is going to say. I'm very stressed out
because there's still a really strong possibility that you're going to say awesome things and I'm going to be like, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I just do whatever.
No. I'm stressed that yours are going to be really deep, and I'm going to just be like, the more you know, one to grow on, everybody. So we are going to
take a bite out of crime for some reason.
We are going to interview each other. This is where this all comes in. So we don't know. Your guess is as good as mine with this episode, dear listener. We don't know what is going to happen. It's just off the cuff, which, maybe Donald can fix in post.
Maybe I can. All right, let's get started. Since you're taking a sip of coffee, I'm going to ask you the first question.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, Catherine. May I call you Catherine? What piece of advice would you give to the you of, let's say, 6 years ago?
Oh, gosh, okay.
That now is a solid piece of advice.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so this is very stressful for me. So what piece of advice would I give myself? So this is the before me who hadn't even started losing weight.
Well, that's the way I take it. But look, it's your podcast. You can answer it however you would like.
Okay. So dear listener, if we can take you back to 6 years ago.
These are the questions we planned ahead on, by the way. So you can only imagine how this is going to go with these surprise questions.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 years ago, if I'm taking you back in time.
Gotta go back in time. Yeah.
It was maybe the worst season of my life. Our daughter was getting into a lot of trouble in school.
Yeah.
I was so stressed at work. I had no boundaries. I was eating and drinking. My sadness and my overwhelm. I was a total martyr in my life. I felt like a victim of everything. So we're setting the tone.
Setting the table.
Or setting the table or the tone? I don't know.
The table tone. I make everything about food. I don't know.
Okay, so if the me of now went back to 6 years ago, I would first give myself a hug because that was a lot going on back then.
Yeah.
It was so much. So I'm getting all teary-eyed now. But if I had to go back, honestly, just letting go of the comedy and not knowing who Magic Johnson is, I would say, and this I think is really true, that you become the person you're going to be by doing the things that person does. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to know that it's going to work. You don't have to know that it's going to be permanent. But just knowing that you don't just magically transform into someone, but you become a person by developing the habits that person has. Whether it's just starting to walk a little bit. I mean, I know we've joked about it before. As soon as close as yesterday about like 7-minute abs. Like, well, you can't get fit in 7 minutes. Like, if it's under 30 minutes, don't even bother. But I don't have 30 minutes, so I'm not going to do anything.
Well, see, I go the other way. I'm only doing 6-minute abs. I'm not putting in that 7th minute.
But now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, what does that person do? That person starts out by doing 1-minute abs. I always thought it was sort of this all or nothing, and if I can't do it perfectly, I can't do it at all. But really, those sort of baby steps of just starting exactly where you are with the resources that you have. And that's actually, what I ended up doing. I didn't start, running a marathon. I started by walking a 1/4 mile to school with our daughter. I mean, that was it. It wasn't this huge proclamation. It wasn't this, okay, well, now I'm revved up and I'm going to run the marathon. It was just walking for 10 minutes. And I built that up over time. But but 6 years ago, I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. It's got to be all or nothing. And it turns out like something really actually does matter. So you become the person you're going to be by doing the things that person does.
Yes, indeed.
And so, Donald, I will ask you a question. If you could go back, now you know what the question is, but what would you say to yourself 6 years ago?
So this is where maybe we should have shared our answers, because my answer is really similar to your answer. I actually wrote out some notes, but okay. The idea that I know that it's a cliche. We talked about like we were just going to like devolve into cliches, but slow and steady wins the race. Telling myself of 6 years ago that I don't have to figure out everything overnight, that I don't have to just make tons of sweeping changes and be like, go to bed one person and wake up a totally new person, that I don't have to do that is huge. The idea that there is no finish line in this and that I can just make tiny changes. I can start with the things that I actually think that I can manage at that moment and then enjoy the success from those and build on those. That to me would be the biggest piece of advice, because I think that there's so many times in my life where I was just like, I am not going to do this because I just can't make those giant, overwhelming changes. And the good news is I don't have to. I didn't have to. And telling myself that. And the other thing, which I don't think you necessarily did touch on, the other piece of big advice for me would be to work on my mindset. And I don't think I realized 6 years ago, I didn't even realize it, maybe even, a year in, 2 years in, until I was sort of came out on the other side, that people don't talk about mindset. Like, I wanted somebody just to give me instructions like building an IKEA piece of furniture or something that was like, do this in step A, do this in step B, do this in step C. But really, it was working on my mindset, developing a growth mindset, developing a positive attitude, and getting over the idea of losing weight quickly, getting over the idea of making those overnight changes, getting over the idea of, having to have perfect willpower. All of those things have added up to the weight loss success that I've had thus far.
Well, fine. Well, I'm going to add on to mine too. So ha 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 to you. No, the mindset thing was huge. I feel like I always just sound really snarky. I had no idea that mindset mattered. I just, like you said, I just wanted, I thought I had a calorie problem, but really what I had was a mindset problem. And beyond that, and something that I didn't even know was a problem, hopefully this isn't a question that you're going to ask me, but I realized I had really terrible boundaries. I had no idea that my emotional eating, my secret eating, was about boundaries, asserting my needs, telling people what I wanted instead of making people guess. That was huge. And it has been, something that's evolved over the last 6 years. But for me, I just thought I had a recipe problem or a, one weird trick problem. What I had was poor, interpersonal boundaries, work boundaries, family boundaries. And the more I've been honest about what I need from people, the less weight I've carried emotionally. And that has been a huge shift. So sorry I made it about me.
Fantastic.
So that was question 1, right?
Well, as your penalty for making it about you, I'm going to ask you the next question.
Oh,
No.
Oh,
You
man.
expanded. You got your chance. Okay, Catherine, question 2. What has been harder, now that you've reached your goal weight, what has been harder than you thought it would be, let's say 5-6 years ago when you started down your current path?
So I think I've been really, if I may toot my own horn.
Yes, you can be a horn tooter.
I think, and this is something just, even thinking about as we've been doing the podcast, I think the hardest thing for me still is tracking while on vacation.
Oh, interesting.
Like actually when things are easy and we're home and everything is within our control, it's pretty easy to stick to my plan. But the times over the last 5 years that we've gone to Disney World or we've gone on a family vacation, my intention, and we've even done episodes on, managing your calories during vacation.
Yeah.
I think it is still the hardest part for me. We can say like, oh, well, save the indulgence for the last day. We've given, lots of advice on how to minimize damage. But honestly, when we were in Hawaii and, this is a brag, just having day cocktails and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
It's fine when I'm, when we're insular and it's just us, but then having other people introduce the foods that they eat, like giant 5-pound buckets of granola, it's still like, oh,
my
man.
sister went to Costco in
Naturally
Hawaii or
slim.
Target or something and bought like a giant 5-pound bucket of granola.
And it was it was like a see-through bucket too. It wasn't an opaque bucket. But I think for me that is still really hard. That sort of moderation on vacation is still something that, I'm definitely better than I would have been 5 years ago, but it's still like, oh boy, that's still a hard part for me. We actually went, we had a little family getaway last Saturday, and we ended up actually like sharing a cupcake instead of each getting a cupcake in the family. So I feel like that was an improvement, but I still, overindulged. So I think that's the hardest thing for me. Maybe that's not super exciting, but that's the hardest thing for me. Donald, what about you?
The thing that I think is much harder than I thought it would be is maintenance in general. And to be more specific about that, I thought the entire time that I would have to eat at a certain calorie deficit, and then I would lose, and then I would hit a certain mark, and then I would be able to add calories back into my life and sort of have an easier time of eating. And because I thought, well, if I'm not trying to actually lose weight, then I can probably eat more calories. But it turns out I basically have to still like eat and exercise at the same levels I did when I was trying to actively lose weight. Like I can be maybe just like a percentage or two looser with calories than I was when I was actively trying to lose, but it's really like I'm doing essentially the same stuff I was doing when I did lose. And we've said this before, but and I'm not trying to make this a double answer again, but
do whatever, man. Double decker.
But I am
like a
not
club sandwich.
I'm not fixed. We've talked about this before. Like I still feel like, I still secret eat sometimes. I still have binge episodes sometimes. And like that person who just says like who throws up their hands, and I can't curse on the show, and says like, I'm just going to blow it, is like right there below the surface like all the time. And I spent 45 years basically like being that person, and I've only had been doing this for like 6 years at this point, or whatever it is, and that person is still lurking below the surface, and I have to fight with myself all the time, and that has been much harder than I expected.
Yeah, and I know we've done episodes on maintenance before, but I think I did sort of the same thing thinking, I was actually interviewed on the Half Size Me podcast. You were as well. And the host, Heather, had asked me, like, what do you think maintenance will be like? And I'm like, oh, probably an extra 100 to 200 calories a day, maybe a teaspoon of oil or something, like as though that would be it. But sort of tying back into the vacation thing, what I have actually found to be true is that I generally eat at a deficit, like all the time. And then I go on vacation, gain 3 or 4 pounds, and then I eat at a deficit basically until we go on our next little getaway. I'm basically always eating at what I hope is a deficit. And then we have those little punctuation marks of going off plan. So it's not like, oh, well, now I just eat 2,000 calories a day. It's like 1,700 for, 5 weeks. And then we have an indulgent dinner out even.
Yeah. I mean, life happens. You don't just go into some bubble where, you can just stay on your plan like all the time.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's that, I'm still eating at a deficit 90% of the time. And then I have indulgent days or, it's that time of the month or whatever, and I'm up a few pounds. So I think that is unexpected. I thought it would just be a flat line. And for some people it is, but for me, it looks more like a topographical map of the Colorado Rockies.
We all know what that looks like.
We sure do.
All right. Would you this time like to ask me the question first?
I would. Wait, are you asking me a question?
I'm asking you to ask the question.
So what is easier about where you are right now than you thought it would be?
Again, I have 2 answers for this. I'm hedging. I'm taking advantage. The first answer, and I just want to preface this by saying, I don't know if this would be the case for everybody. I feel like it's kind of not the case for Catherine in a lot of ways, but something that is easier for me has been moderating my treats. I used to consider myself a soda addict. I mean, at the height, I would drink between 6 and 12 cans of regular soda every day.
That is no lie.
And, that was in addition to I would go to a movie and I would get the absolute largest regular soda, all the time. And I really thought I would have to go cold turkey on that. But now I'm at a point where I can have one once in a while. And it doesn't cause me to spiral into badness and go back to, doing that all the time. I can have one. I have one on a day, and then I maybe don't have one for another several months.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm taking it back. I'm going back to what's harder than I thought. Donald Weigel has buckets of potato chips under our bed.
Yeah.
It's basically, we don't even have a box spring. It's just potato chips. Donald is a moderator, and I forgot one of the hard things for me, where it's easy for him, is he can totally moderate. He plans out his snacks at night.
But I didn't used to be, and that's why I think this is easier than I thought. I used to be somebody that was I would eat one mini bag of chips, or I would eat the first chip, and then it was done. I would give myself inner permission to then eat all of it, to eat the entire multi-pack or the entire giant, Costco-sized bag of them. And I have found it actually much easier to moderate that stuff now than I thought I would.
I still remember the first time you had a bottle of Coca-Cola after losing weight, and you got it, I think it was for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Donald, what's up with the Coca-Cola? How's it going, my guy?
I just imagine a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing. I was going to drink one soda, and suddenly just soda lust would overtake me, and I'd be drinking all the sodas in all of Los Angeles.
I was really nervous, but he has done a great job of moderating.
Because I did go a whole year without a soda, without any sort of real, honest to goodness treat at the very beginning.
A year without a soda clause.
Yeah.
So for me, the moderating has actually been really difficult. I have had to just abstain from certain things outside of the house, or I've had the opportunity to abstain from things out of the house, where Donald can just have one. I have a much harder time with it. So anyway. I'm
and then the second answer to that question is going to bed early and getting up early has turned out to be much easier than I thought it would be. I mean, I think it was just I didn't want to before, but doing it is it's easy now. I just do it, and I actually like it, and I like those morning hours before anybody else is up. I look forward to them. It's really some of my favorite parts of the day are the morning hours, where it's just you and I either having coffee or rebounding or whatever, and it's been much easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, we were definite, sort of going back to the last episode that we did about setting ourselves up for failure. We would stay up until 11 o'clock watching Seinfeld. I'd wake up late. So I would have, McDonald's for breakfast, wouldn't have time to make lunch, was tired all day, eating, Cheesecake Factory for lunch. And that was just a cycle that we just did. And I didn't think more like you were just magically made a morning person, but I think that's a great point. I love being a morning person and getting up early now. And we're like turning the lights out at 9:00, 9:30. And that is fine for me. So
it is fine for me too. Okay. So what's easier for you than you thought?
What is easier for me? Tracking.
Oh.
Tracking is like, it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
It just,
no, that is pretty
that
easy.
first week that I was tracking, back in 2016, it felt unfair. It felt like the whole world was against me. Like, nobody else has to do it. Why should I do it? It is such just a seamless part of my life now. There's not a like, oh, it's not fair. It's not fair. It helps keep me on track. It's like knowing how much gasoline is in my gas tank. It's not like bumming me out. It's just a budget.
How much money's in your bank account? Like you can't just, I think there's enough money in there.
Yeah. Like it is just a neutral part of my life. It is a very small price to pay for the success that I have continued. Even for days that I don't track, I put in, if I don't track accurately, I put in a blanket 3,000 calories just to kind of keep the practice up. But I've been tracking basically nonstop, aside from, maybe a couple days a year I've forgotten to, but it's just a non-issue. And I still see a lot of people who are resentful of it. And we did, I like math sometimes, but I realized, and I did this in Molt Place recently I actually did a video of myself pre-tracking my day, and it took less than 3 minutes, which is like, if you do the math, I think it's like 0.3% of my waking hours.
Yeah.
And even if it took 10 minutes, it would be like 0.1% of my waking time.
Yeah.
And if I'm not willing to put in that little effort to something with that big of a return, like it's such a small price to pay. And it has been really easy. And that first week it felt physically like disruptive and awful. And now it's like, whatever. It's just part of my life. So
yeah, I'm going to say something that's going to make people hate me. I've always found tracking easy.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Goody two.
So I'm not surprised it's
easy. And guess
easy.
what? I've got a two-part answer on this one.
Uh-oh.
My guy.
Uh-oh.
So the other part is, and this is something that I hadn't considered when we started. Donald just sort of talked about this, is that my growth mindset is just kind of fluid now. Not that I don't have setbacks, but before when it was like, all right, remind yourself to have a growth mindset, I actually actively am like, oh, this is a problem. How can I look at this differently? How can I make it work? And I've had a few situations this week alone where I have, come up with a challenge, and instead of panicking, instead of going, see, nothing ever goes my way, I'm a victim to this.
Yeah.
I had a boundary issue with our daughter that I was like, oh, well, how do I want to feel about this in the future? Okay, well, I don't want to be upset. What do I actually want to have happen? And it just was playing in my head naturally, not as a like punitive, like, okay, fine, I want a good relationship. It was like, no, I actually want a happy result for this. How can I make that possible? What boundaries can I set? And then something happened on Friday too, where I had a conflict and was like, oh, how can I make this easier on myself? And it worked. And it was like, oh, see, if you actually look for solutions and compromises, like it actually works. And it feels really good to do that. And
things that have worked actually work.
No, but the thing that is easy is that it is just a natural part of my life now, looking for the solution instead of focusing on the negative. And before, I used to want the negative, almost like I want it to be a problem because that makes me stressed out, and then I get to eat about it. And looking for the positive and the solutions, it feels a lot better. And not that everything works out, but like asserting boundaries it's been really helpful. And
it's something I need to work on more. I would put that in my harder category, actually.
It's too late. You can't talk about that. We already passed that. No, but like, but like, I didn't know, if someone had been like, hey, guess what, Martyr? Like, you have an opportunity to make positive changes. Yeah. Like, no, I don't. It's my like, but now it's getting easier. So I'm here to help you on that transition as well. So you moderate, and I have growth mindset. So
sounds good. Now here comes the scary part. It's our unplanned questions.
Oh wait, did you? Do you have anything else to say? I feel like
Nope.
I can't remember. Nope, you got nothing else. Ooh, the secret part. Let's see. Who wants to go first? Should we
tell
rock,
me.
paper, scissors?
We're gonna rock paper scissors
Yeah.
on a podcast.
Okay, ready?
1, 2, 3. Oh,
Wait, so does that
Catherine.
mean-
Catherine won. Yeah,
I got scissors.
yeah. Catherine did scissors. I did paper.
Okay. Can I ask 2 questions? Or we'll start with 1.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. You can ask 2.
Okay. What hasn't changed?
Well, I think I kind of answered this earlier. Like I'm still doing the same things I was doing when I was trying to lose weight, and I still have episodes of I'm like basically repeating myself, but I still have binge eating episodes. I still engage in secret eating from time to time. I still find myself occasionally like losing control and just eating whatever I want. Those sorts of things. Now, what has changed is that, I know that's not what you asked, but
I don't want to know.
those episodes are fewer and farther between, and I know better how to recover from them. I know how to limit the damage from them. I have habits in place to stop myself from getting out of control, or just giving up, or just caving into that all or nothing attitude. But most of those things have all stayed the same.
May I add to your answer?
Yeah.
About yourself?
Yeah.
What also hasn't changed for you is that you still work in an industry that has food everywhere.
Yeah.
He is still tempted every day.
No, and people think that routinely people think that I am a crazy person because I bring my own food to work so that I can eat the way I want to eat.
But it's free, Donald.
I know. Instead of eating there is so much free food available at work, that I wouldn't have to pay for. I could eat as much as I want, but I guarantee I would be 100 pounds heavier in no time if I did that.
Well, I think it came up recently, just sort of like, oh, well, they're giving free food at work, or, oh, this, we're being taken out and it's free. We're not college students starving without any money, trying to I heard there's free food in the kitchen. I'm a grown up.
I'm a grown up with a good job who can buy my own food and bring it to work.
Yeah, so that sort of impulse of it's free, nothing free is free. So sorry I added on.
No, that's good. Do you want to ask me your second question?
No, I want you to ask me.
You want me to ask you? Because I only have one question for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so, and I'm not sure. Okay, hopefully this is a good question. I think it is. If you could wave a magic wand.
Ooh, James Clear. Or no, BJ Fogg, okay.
And get rid of an outdated or misguided piece of conventional wisdom about weight loss and fitness, what would it be?
Oh, man, that's... Okay, Barbara Walters. Jeez. Can you ask that again? I just want to make sure Can you use that in a sentence, please?
If you could wave a magic wand and get rid of an outdated or misguided piece of conventional wisdom about weight loss and fitness, what would it be? In other words, what is the thing, especially in hindsight, now that you have hit your goal weight, you've maintained it for 3-4 years now, what is the piece of weight loss advice or wisdom or that people take as gospel that you would want to get rid of?
I got it. Okay, so I think the biggest revelation in all of this is that I think that in the industry itself, there are plans that demand compliance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Weight Watchers, you get 28 points, as though you're actually given food coupons that you have to use each day. I think the biggest shakeup is that you can take from as many plans as you want and compile something that actually works for you. You don't work for Weight Watchers. Watchers works for you.
Yeah.
And you can have as many points as you want. You can change your plan as much as you want. You can hybrid and use different parts of different things to come up with something that is uniquely yours. Now, that can be scary because some people want to be told exactly what to do and how to do it. I tried that for 35 years of trying to comply to other people's expectations or their, idea of how weight loss works or how your life works. But quite honestly, we are grown-ups. and we're responsible for what we put in our bodies. And if people say like, oh, you got to have this much, if you don't have this much protein, if you can't lose weight with pancakes, all these different stories are absolute garbage. And I was victim to other people's interpretations of the perfect way to do it. And once I finally realized that I could craft a plan that worked for me and my lifestyle, knowing that I didn't have to do what Donald was doing, I don't have to listen to anybody else, and I could really take out the pieces that added to my life instead of trying to conform to whatever plan said, was on or off. I remember a friend of mine was doing a plan, but she had modified it to include something else, and she posted about it on Instagram and hashtagged the plan. And the person who ran that plan was like, please stop using this hashtag. You're not doing it the right way. And like, what greater gift is there to find a plan where you're incorporating different pieces from different things and making it work for yourself? Saying that you're not losing right is terrible. So that was a very good question, Donald. I think there's such liberty in being like, how am I going to make this work for me based on what I want to do?
Well, thank you. I actually have a couple of answers I thought you might give that I wrote down that are sort of mine.
Okay. What am I really thinking?
Just quickly. The first one is, I thought you might say, or maybe this is more me, is that you have to go to a gym in order to lose weight.
You don't. That's the opposite of it.
Like, hard exercise is the only way to successfully lose weight. And we know that is not true. The other thing I thought you might say is that you just need the right recipes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of said that earlier.
That you might want to get rid of. Then lastly, the thing I thought you might want to get rid of is people saying, I know what to do, I just can't get myself to do it.
I really take umbrage with that. But maybe those are your answers.
Maybe those are my answers.
What are your answers, Donald?
Those are my answers. I just said, just to elaborate on that last one, just quickly.
Aw, wait, can I stop?
Yeah.
I love you so much.
I love you so much. Do I need to edit that out or can I leave it in? The idea that if you were saying to yourself, I know what to do, I just can't get myself to do it, then you don't actually know what to do.
I still hear that so often, and people just try to bite off more than they can actually manage.
It's really hard to hear that, and I can just see people going like, well, I say that to myself and I'm angry now, but it's true. If you just relax, think about it for a minute and not just get angry that I just said that, it really, like, I used to say it all the time that I just know what to do, but it turns out I didn't know what to do. I just thought I did.
Well, and it's a loophole too, because if you say what you need to do but can't do it, and then that kind of absolves you from having to do it because you're still trying to find that like lightning bolt moment to turn into the new person. So, nicely done. That was a great question. I feel like I need to fancy up my second question for you.
Do you have another question for me?
I do.
Okay, let's do this. Let's bring it home.
Okay, so here it goes. And we've actually sort of talked about this before, but I'd like to ask you the question.
Okay.
What do you miss about the before time?
Wow. That's a really it's a really good question. It's really hard to answer.
May I keep going on it?
Sure.
Like, we've changed a lot, but it doesn't mean that we don't miss aspects of the before time. So anyway, what are you going to say?
I see, it's so funny because I think of things that I miss. In one sense, I really miss going out to eat as much as we ate. And the other part of that, you know what, this is the answer. The other part of that is, we were really coming into our own, so to speak. Like, I thought one of the most adult things you could do, one of the most grown-up things you could do was to belong to wine clubs.
Yeah.
And
I do miss that.
We belonged to 3 wine clubs, and we went to Napa at least once a year, maybe more. It's not that far from where we live. We weren't like renting private jets or anything to go up there. But not that there's anything wrong with that. But I really miss...
Don't jet shame, Donald.
yeah, I'm jet shaming. I really do miss that. But what I don't miss, which is what you didn't ask me, I don't miss the negative consequences of that. I don't miss the getting going out to eat and then coming home and having to take a nap because I was so tired, or having half a bottle of wine and then also needing a nap or, not having any energy to do anything else. I don't miss the inability to walk places and to really enjoy vacations that didn't involve food. And so, that's what I miss.
The anti-answer.
But I don't miss the consequences of all of that.
Yeah. Can I answer what?
Please.
I'm not going to say what you like. Oh, well, this is what I thought you were going to say.
I'm
going to say what
you were going to answer
say.
this question too. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. You're getting more than you bargained for. But I think what I miss, and I don't miss it, but I do miss it, is that I felt like I was a victim of my life.
Oh, yeah.
I could blame everybody else in the world for all of my problems. I could blame circumstance. I was a total martyr. I was like, okay, well, this is just my lot in life. I definitely felt like a background actor in life. And it was much easier when you're a background actor. You just show up when people tell you to show up.
Yeah.
You just say your lines. You get craft service. You get to eat whatever you want. And there was a passivity about everything that I just felt like I was underappreciated, underpaid, underloved, whatever. And there's comfort in feeling like you have no choice. You have no agency, because then you don't have to change anything, because it's just like, well, this is just what life is. But then there's kind of a fear of like, oh, I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for creating boundaries and, actually having agency in my life. So it's just sort of this weird, like you said, like I miss, going out to eat all the time. And, we still drive past old places that we would go to and be like, oh, remember every time we'd go there. But you know what? It feels a lot better at 47 to not feel like I'm dying. Like I actually thought 6 years ago, I remember thinking like, I just feel like I want to be a puppet on a string. I want someone else to push the buttons and move my arms. I actually just felt like I was just crumbling. And, that is the consequence of being a victim and being passive.
Now I want to go back and give you a hug.
Aw. No, but it was like, it was awful. Like 6 years ago, I was in a really dark place. And knowing that it's possible to break out of that, it takes effort and it takes focus. But I feel better than I have like my whole life.
Yeah,
I feel more myself.
And I do too.
I feel more like I'm in control of my destiny, of our future. And it just feels so much better. But sure, like I miss sitting around yucking it up, watching Seinfeld and eating on everything and being in wine clubs. But I don't, like you said, I don't miss the results of that. So,
well, I think that is a great place to wrap up our
good job. We did a good job.
200th Bicentennial episode celebration that we started back in 1776. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, or even if you didn't, 199 others, 199 happy haunts are waiting for you. There's always room for one more or something. Haunted Mansion reference, everybody. Anyway, they're all available wherever you found this episode, or also on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
And if you're at weonlylookthin.com, you can click on the link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about Wolt Place, WOLT Place. It is a online accountability group for women based on Facebook. We have 2 subscription options, a monthly option with a 3-day complimentary trial, or a 3-month option with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if Wolt Place is right for you. It is not a weight loss plan, but it is a place for support and accountability and that darn growth mindset.
Yeah, and there's lots of other women there who are going through the same things that you are, who have already been through and come up with solutions, and you get access to Katherine Weigel. I'm really, really proud of the work that you do in Wolt Place.
Thanks.
And if you think you might be interested, sign up for a trial. You don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
And also, if you'd like to interact with us via the socials, you can reach us at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at We Only Look Thin. Or if you're feeling a little more old-fashioned, email is now old-fashioned, you can email us, weonlylookthin@gmail.com. We love episode suggestions. We love questions. We love to hear from you and just say hi. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And if you're feeling generous, because this is our 200th episode, why not give a little gift back by heading over to Apple Podcast and leaving us a rating and review? It helps other people find the podcast, and it fills our heart with joy instead of food.
Indeed. And also, you could just tell somebody about the podcast. The word of mouth really helps. Spread it around. Let people know to listen to us. We appreciate it.
Yep. And so if you are at once horrified that I don't know who Magic Johnson and Dr. J are, but you still find us inspirational.
Not a basketball podcast.
Nope. Just remember that Donald and I and our dear listeners are
an inspiration. The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.